Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. As you know, the only big story underway in America right now that is purely American has to do with redistricting in Texas and redistricting in California and whether redistricting of congressional seats will follow in other states. Joining me to talk about redistricting is a redistricting expert, former California State Assemblyman John Campbell, former California State Senator John Campbell, former California Congressman John Campbell, son of California. His children are all in California. He has fled across the state line because he's so embarrassed by the fact that the California mess is on him, including the maps and the redistricting commission that runs California. So, Congressman, since you know how to redraw lines to save yourself and everybody else, tell us about redistricting in California and how we got to this point and what the Democrats are doing in Sacramento.
Okay. Understand that redistricting is what happens within a state. And a lot of people may think it's unconstitutional, blah, blah, blah. The Constitution provides for allocating members of Congress amongst the states. But within the states, how they get allocated is up to the state. So states can do it however they want to do it. And it is an inherently, let's first of all set aside and understand, it is an inherently political process. And it is not just...
There are two rules. Can I interrupt you? There are two rules.
Sure.
Every district has to have the same number of people at the conclusion of the process, and you may not use race to draw districts unless the Voting Rights Act compels you to do so, and that might even go away. It doesn't apply to California. But in California, two rules. Every district's got to have the same number of people. You may not use race. Go forth.
And that's true. That's true in every state, actually. You're right. That's a federal law with that you have to do that as well. So there is that. But it's inherently political. And I went through several redistrictings in my career. And understand, again, what every individual member of your state house, your state senate, and Congress has a personal agenda. They have a goal. They have something they want to do. I'm in the state house or the state assembly in California. I want to be in the state senate. So when we draw lines, I'm looking at what the state senate line district is going to be. Will that be good for me to run in, or will it make it difficult for me to win based on where my current district is? Same with Congress, same with everything else. Let's just say, I wouldn't call them fights, but the discussions and debate between members over districts. I remember with another, when I was in Congress and redistricted, that they were perhaps going to draw me with another current congressman at the time, Dana Rohrabacher, in the same district, and Dana was petrified about running against me, and I didn't particularly want to run against him. So we were hoping that there would be districts that we could run in separately, and we did. So I just mentioned this, that there's a lot of personal agendas here, a lot, and that has nothing to do with party. That's just personal agendas. Okay, but the other aspect of political does have to do with party, is drawing districts that benefit my party. And in California, forever, the legislature has drawn the districts with the approval of the governor. Now, there was a fight back between your friend and mine, then Governor Pete Wilson, and a Democratic legislature back in 1990, redistricting, where they couldn't agree. The legislature drew Democratic maps, and the governor wouldn't sign them. And the law at that time required that to happen. So what happened is he actually turned it over to the governor did in the legislature, to some judges to draw the districts fairly, which are probably the only fair districts there's been in the state of California in my lifetime. But those
for
were
10 years.
In 1990. And they made sense, and the House districts were nested within the Senate district.
Explain that, because that's how it should be everywhere. They should be nested.
Well, yes. There are always more state house or state assembly members than state senate in every state except for Nebraska, which is the only unicameral legislature where they have only a state senate. So taking Nebraska aside, all the other states, there are more state house or state assembly than senators. In California, it's double. You have 80 assembly members and 40 senators. When they were nested, they drew the Senate districts first, and then they just split them in half. And there were 2 assembly districts in each Senate district, which, as you say, totally makes sense. But that's because this was drawn by a group of judges who were actually impartial, unlike many of the district court judges making rulings on President Trump today. So they were actually impartial. So they did that. but since then, it was drawn by the legislature and the governor. Arnold Schwarzenegger comes in, and Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, always prided himself, still does, as being a Republican on the ballot, an R after his name, etc. But the ultimate moderate Republican, the ultimate
glass jaw Republican, glass jaw.
Okay, I often said he was a Republican that was like if politics is a river and there's a left bank and a right bank, he was always out dead in the center of the river. And unfortunately, what that does is the river takes you downstream unless you have some anchors to one side or the other. And he eventually lost those, but that's for a separate topic. But he set up a redistricting commission, feeling that taking it out of the hands of the legislature and putting it in a commission would make it more fair and more even, and it wouldn't benefit either Democrats or Republicans. Now, unfortunately, the makeup of the commission, because the legislature was involved with this and everybody approved it, favored Democrats. So the redistricting commission in California has favored Democrats since then. But it was put in by Arnold Schwarzenegger before the people. The legislature was not going to give up their power voluntarily. So Arnold took it to the people with a ballot proposition, and the people voted it in because of this sell that, it's going to be independent, won't favor either Republicans or Democrats. So that is the law in California today. When most states...
How did it work? How did it work? 2 minutes to the break. How did they work?
Well, there was supposedly a certain number of Republicans, I forget how many, 20 people or something, Republicans, Democrats, some from the public, some from this, some from that, some from unions, some from whatever, and independents, and they would sit and draw the lines. And that's the way it was put together. But it had
it favored Democrats, didn't it? It favored Democrats in the end.
Absolutely favored Democrats, and that's part of the reason that Arnold was able to get it through. But you could argue it was better than the legislature doing it. But so California, with an initiative process, like most states with an initiative process, if you pass something by initiative, it can only be repealed by initiative. So the legislature and the government and the governor cannot remove an act put in place by the people. Only the people can do that. So what Gavin Newsom has to do here is take his new redistricting back to the people for a vote in order to overturn the commission and in order to make these changes in the middle of the 10-year cycle, in the middle of the decade. So that is what he is trying to do. And I know we're getting close to the break, but when we get back from the break,
when we come back,
looked at the districts. I have looked at the districts and seen what they've drawn and what they're trying to do.
Don't tell us. It's called a tease. That's a tease.
I understand. So I will explain. I will explain how they. There's 52 congressmen, I think, in members of Congress in California now. And I think there's only 9 Republicans. And with this, they think they can take it down to 3 or 4 out of 52.
Would you check the map and find out
how they do it?
And find out if Ken Calvert's going to survive, because to take Ken Calvert out of the Congress when he's chairman of the Subcommittee of Appropriations and chairman of the Defense Subcommittee is crazy. I hope he survives. Stay tuned. John Campbell will give us the answers after these messages. Welcome back, America. Texas is going to redraw its lines by the legislature, as is appropriate. They did it once before. California is going to amend its constitution to screw Republicans. What do the maps look like, Congressman John Campbell, formerly a state representative, formerly a state senator, formerly a California congressman, deeply embedded in the machinations of the Golden State? What do the maps do?
They are pretty messy. But so what you do, and I'm going to say this from the perspective of Democrats, because that's who's doing this in California. What you want to do is take where you have pockets of Republicans and divide them. So you break them up. And where you have pockets of Democrats, you divide them as well in order to move them to where there are pockets of Republicans and make the numbers work so you have majority Democrats in more and more places. So let's take one of the most egregious examples, I thought, when I looked at the map, was the very north area of California, up against the Oregon border and inland all the way to the border with Nevada. That is very red country. That is conservative country. There is a guy serving in the legislature, Doug LaMalfa, represents that area. He's there in Congress now. He's represented it on and off, in one office or another for 20 years, I believe, if not longer. Anyway, they take that area and run a finger down to San Francisco, which is hundreds of miles, down to San Francisco to pick up Democrats in Marin County and a few other places where obviously they don't need them in San Francisco. They have there's 85% of the people in San Francisco are Democrats, something like that. So you take some of those Democrats from the Bay Area and run them up in there in order to dilute the Republican control of that district. That's the most egregious one I saw. But right now I'm sitting in Newport Beach, California, talking to you. Newport Beach is not that huge a city. I think 75,000 people. It's never been split up in redistricting, but it's solidly Republican. I used to get 75% of the vote here, 80% of the vote here. They split it in half, and they put half of it up with Long Beach, California. Again, moving it 50 miles up the coast to have where there's a bunch of Democrats in LA that they don't need, and to dilute Newport Beach, and then take the other half of it and move it up with Norwalk, another town in Los Angeles County,
Wow.
whole different county, in order to take the Republican effect of Newport Beach, split it up, dilute it, and mess it around. So those are just some examples. I mean, there's one district goes along the coast of California. I mean, just inland, just a tiny little bit, and goes and picks up some Democrats along the coast and then shoots inland to pick up some of the Republicans in the Central Valley, which is farming area. And I believe every major agricultural district in the country now is Republican. I'm sure there's some in Massachusetts that aren't, maybe in Massachusetts that aren't, but outside of that, I think they're all pretty much Republican now. So you dilute it that way. So that's the kind of thing they're doing. Now, when I mentioned before the break that people have personal interests in this, and there are some Democrats currently in office where they're taking some of their Democrats away, and they're making their districts a little more competitive, not in danger, but more competitive. So again, you're a member of Congress and you're sitting in a district where you get 65% of the vote because it's so heavily Democratic. That is wonderful. You don't have to campaign that much. You can raise money and give money to the Democratic Party, and that helps you get committee chairs and all kinds of things like that. It's a wonderful place to be. I know that's exactly the kind of position I was in, only just as a Republican. Now, you take away some of that Democrats, some of that Democratic member of Congress's Democrats and put them in another district. And now instead of 65%, I'm going to get 55. Okay, I'm still going to win. Looks good, solid, but I might have to campaign because I don't want to be one of those members of Congress, and there's plenty of them. They just assume you're going to win, don't campaign, don't spend any money, don't do anything, and then all of a sudden.
Are we talking about Maxine Waters?
You wake up on election day with a surprise. And so there's some of those I know that I've heard that are not particularly happy with this redistricting because they're going to have to work. They'll probably win. The Cook report will have it either maybe take it from a solid Democrat to a lean Democrat. And that means, they have to work a little harder, they have to spend a little money, they have to do whatever. And they don't want to do that. And so they may not be excited in that. So
52
I know
seats.
some of them aren't. I know some of them aren't.
52 seats. Before we go to break, how many will be Republican if this passes come 2026?
If this passes, I think what they're planning is that there will be 4.
Down from 9.
Yes.
4 out of 52.
Correct. And those 4 they're allowing, those will be heavy Republican. They'll just leave them there alone.
Is
so
one of them
use the
Ken
Democrats
Calvert?
to make some of the others. No. Because he had a difficult race both of the last 2 cycles, and there's a lot of Democrats around him. It's easy to flip that district, and they'll do that.
You got to come back and tell me who's going to survive. I'll be interested to know that. One more segment with Congressman Campbell. Don't go anywhere, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. As you know, California is going to attempt to redistrict via initiative the Republican Party in California out of existence or down to 3 or 4 Republicans. Congressman John Campbell, a veteran of the California congressional delegation, though now retired, has been studying the maps. Who survives John Campbell in the Republican delegation?
And to be honest with you, I'm not sure exactly. I've looked. I haven't looked at all 52 seats very carefully. There's clearly a couple of seats in the Central Valley of California, which is where the agriculture area, one of the Republican bastions, that will survive. And there probably will be another one, Orange County or Los Angeles or San Diego County, somewhere around there, are probably where the surviving ones will be, just looking at the map generally. But exactly who's in those, I don't know, because one of the things that happens is it's musical chairs. Somebody gets drawn out of a seat and they want to run in the seat that's next to them, and everyone assumes you have to live in your congressional district. You do not. At least not in California, you don't.
No, not anywhere. It's not a constitutional requirement. You have to be in the state.
Yeah, you just have to live in the state. So therefore, even though I might not live in this district, if they draw my district away from me and it becomes Democrat and the ones next to me looks like maybe I can win it, I might go over there and run against another Republican because I want to stay in Congress. And so, again, personal agendas don't ignore them. They are important. And
can I play a clip for you? This is the Assembly Election Chair, Gail Pellerin, talking to KCRA, Channel 3, NBC in Sacramento with Ashley Zavala, cut number 10.
Who exactly is responsible for the maps? Who do we tell California voters drew these?
Well, so the maps have been posted on our website since 8 o'clock yesterday. The lines are very clear where people can go on and observe and see what we're doing. There are adjustments. Many counties and many districts are not getting touched at all. So,
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. My question is, who is responsible for the maps specifically? Who do we let California voters know are responsible for the maps that they are being presented with?
Yeah, I think it was a collaboration.
There were several people involved.
Who specifically?
I don't have the full list right here with me, but we can certainly get that to you. But these maps are transparent. They're there for voters.
But
the
names of the people? The names of the people, the organizations. I mean, Governor Gavin Newsom promised that no special interests or this would be transparent. This would not be done in a back room. So we're trying to ascertain in this very short amount of time that you have to deliberate this, who exactly are the maps responsible for?
There's a lot happening very quickly, and the folks that were drawing the maps went back to the Independent Redistricting Commission's testimony and what they heard during their time when they were deliberating this, and they themselves ran out of time to do the work that they needed to do. And so we're basing these on the Voting Rights Act, and we're looking at really bringing the voters into this process, and that's why we're going to an election on November 4th, because at the end of the day, the voters' voice is what matters.
And we're asking because voters back in 2008 and 2010 took the power away from politicians to draw maps because they did not like that it was an incumbent protection plan. So we just need to know. I mean, that's why we're asking.
These are definitely unusual times. We are no longer governing in a democracy. We're governing in an authoritarian government. We are seeing things that we care so deeply about in California. We have education, food for children, our immigrant community, our LGBT community. They are getting decimated by this administration. This is an all-out assault on California's democracy and the rights and values. So we have to move quickly, but we are bringing the voters on to this process. We're letting them know the maps have been posted on the website. We have this election on November 4th, and at the end of the day, the voters will decide what is important to them and whether they want to adjust these maps to give California the voice it needs in Congress.
But can any of you answer whether or not were state lawmakers involved in drawing the maps? Any state lawmakers at all?
Not to my knowledge.
But who adjusted them last night at 8 p.m.?
It was my understanding that they were by 8 a.m. They were out there.
No, there's
and so there was a collaboration, but we can get to the people that actually did that work.
So then why does the legislation say the detailed maps are prepared by the Assembly and State Senate elections committees?
So the reality is that it was a collaboration, and we can get those specifics, but I think what's most important is the maps are out there for people to see, to evaluate, to make a judgment on. The lines are the lines.
Madam Chair, but
so we are that
when you consume something, don't you want to know who makes it? When you are presented with something, don't you want to know where it's coming from? Don't voters deserve to know?
When I go to a restaurant, I don't need to meet the chef. I just enjoy the food.
Senator Sean Campbell, what do you think about that?
Oh, there's so much garbage in that interview. And that's an NBC affiliate in Sacramento. Well, good for her. I mean,
good for her.
Yeah, normally these local, particularly in California, these local TV news people just go in and say, give me your Democrat talking points. I'll ask you a question. What are your Democrat talking points? Go. And that's all they spew out. Wow, good for her. And follow up and follow up. They never follow up when they don't answer the question, which she didn't. So good for her, first of all. But what a whole bunch of garbage that no legislators were involved. Every legislator, every Democratic legislator was involved. Every one, I assure you. And so it's absolute, complete garbage on that. But let's talk about what I think we mainly heard there. Remember, they have to pass this. The people do have to vote it, and they're planning to put it on the ballot in November. It's going to cost $200 million to have a special election to put this thing on. And people have said, well, but the state's in a deficit. It's borrowing money. It's doing all this kind of stuff. How could you spend this $200 million? And Gavin said the same thing she said. Democracy is on the ballot. We have an authoritarian government in Donald Trump in Washington, and democracy is on the ballot. And we must say that there is no price on democracy. And that's their quote, their thing they're saying. So this is their sell. Their sell, I mean, she started out with the sell of, well, the redistricting commission ran out of time. And we're actually doing what they want. And so it's really independent. It's really this. And I think that's not going to work. I have a
She ended up saying, I don't care about the chef. I just ordered the food. Stand by. I got to talk about relief. Welcome back, America. I wanted to give Congressman John Campbell, formerly a representative from California for 12 years, also a California state senator, a California representative, a California born and bred, a California boy who left, a last word. What do you think about this hijinks and shenanigans? 3 minutes, Congressman.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrible. But let's talk about the prospect of where does it go from here. So on the ballot in November, spend $200 million to do it. Polling is showing it's doing very badly. That when people are told what actually it is, which is that it's removing the redistricting commission that the people voted in 2010 or whenever it was, and 2008, I think, but that it is replacing that with ones drawn by the governor and the legislature. It's about 65% no. So that they've got a real uphill battle. So
are they going to disguise it and use bad language to confuse voters like they do sometimes?
That's for sure. That's for sure. Rob Bonta, who's the Attorney General in California, will say that this is well, like she did in that clip you played before the break. They'll probably come and say this is a reimagination of the redistricting commission's maps, which they didn't have time to draw. And that's what it is. So they're going to do that to confuse.
But will yes mean yes and no mean no?
Don't know that either.
See, that's one of their best tricks.
It is. It is one of their tricks. And obviously with their base, they could come out and say, we're saving democracy because we're doing stuff against Donald Trump. The other big thing they have, well, let me say one problem they're going to have. Arnold Schwarzenegger, who has been quiet politically since his governorship in the end, his approval rating was like 25% or 22%. So he did not enjoy his last year or so as governor. In fact, he spent most of it in his home, didn't even go to Sacramento. So he's been away from politics for some time. He came out on this very strongly and said, I'm against this and I'm going to do everything I can to fight this. We put this in when I was governor and we should not have the legislature drawing gerrymandered maps again. Don't ignore the significance of that. That will have some
If we can get
impact.
Pete and Arnold at an event, I mean, you really could score some points.
Yeah, but here's the biggest problem. Elections in California are rigged. They've been rigged since 2012. And so they will mail out 20 million mail-in ballots. I know of plenty of people who their kids have been gone for years. They still get their ballot. Their mother's been dead for years. They still get the ballot. I've moved a bunch. So I don't know whether my ballot in the place I used to live in California is still showing up and somebody's voting it. It might.
Mine stopped 4 years ago, 6 years after I left. I got ballots for 6 years.
Yeah,
well, we are out of time on this, but I'm going to beat this to death with your help over the next 5 months. So stand by. It's you. You made this problem. You own this problem. You've got to fix this, John Campbell. No more car shows for you. No, no, no. You've got to stop this. It's all on you. I'll be right. Follow him on Twitter, JBT Campbell.